You've heard the statistic. We've only explored 5% of the ocean. It gets repeated in documentaries, in classrooms, on social media, and it is wrong. According to the Seabed 2030 project, 27.3% of the world's ocean floor has now been mapped to modern standards. Still, a shockingly small fraction of a planet that is mostly water. But here's the real question that statistic obscures. Not how much we've mapped, but why the deep ocean still feels like somewhere we are not supposed to go. When Seabed 2030 began in 2017, only 6% had been mapped. In less than a decade, that number has more than quadrupled. The most recent increase alone represents more than 4 million square kilometers of newly mapped seafloor, roughly the entire Indian subcontinent. And yet, we have mapped the surface of Mars in finer detail than our own ocean floor. We know more about the craters of the moon than the valleys beneath the Pacific. The deep sea is not the final frontier. It is the frontier we keep choosing to leave unexplored. But in June 2023, the ocean forced its way back into every conversation on Earth. On the 18th of June, the Titan submersible lost contact less than 2 hours into a dive to the Titanic wreck site. On board were 5 people, including OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush. Days later, debris confirmed a catastrophic implosion had killed all 5. The world watched, gripped by hope of a rescue that was never coming, because the ocean does not negotiate. At depth, it simply wins. The U.S. Coast Guard concluded the implosion was caused by loss of structural integrity in the carbon fiber hull. The vessel had been damaged during earlier dives, built through a flawed engineering process that failed to meet safety standards. The hull had been delaminating quietly, invisibly, dive by dive. The investigation chair stated plainly, this casualty and the loss of 5 lives was preventable. The Titan disaster did not reveal that the deep ocean is dangerous. It revealed something far more unsettling, that we had started treating it like it wasn't. On January 23, 1960, Jacques Piccard and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh made the first descent to the Challenger Deep, nearly 7 miles down in the Mariana Trench. They rowed a vessel called the Trieste, essentially a steel sphere dangling beneath a float of aviation gasoline. When they landed, they expected silence and emptiness. Instead, Piccard reportedly spotted a flatfish drifting through the sediment. Life, at the deepest point on Earth. The ocean had refused to be what they expected. At a depth where pressure exceeds 1,000 times what you feel at sea level, where the weight of water above equals roughly 8 tons per square inch, something was alive. Not just surviving, living. Here is a question for you. If you had the chance to descend to the Challenger Deep in a crewed submersible, knowing the risks, knowing what happened to Titan, would you take it? Comment your answer below, because the answer probably says something profound about how each of us weighs wonder against fear. And the real abyss does not need aliens. Researchers filmed a pseudo-liparis snailfish at 8,336 meters, a ghostly translucent creature drifting through absolute darkness at pressures that would crush a human body in milliseconds. About 1,000 meters deeper than any other fish ever recorded alive. Reality is stranger than any screenplay. But now another layer arrives, and it changes everything. The minerals locked in the deep ocean floor, manganese, cobalt, nickel, rare earth elements essential for batteries and electronics, have become the object of a race that looks less like science and more like the 19th century scramble for empire. The International Seabed Authority has granted 31 exploration contracts, with China, Russia, and South Korea leading. An executive order issued in April 2025 pursues exploitation of deep-sea resources beyond national jurisdiction. 32 countries have called for a moratorium. The consensus is fracturing. The seafloor, still largely unmapped, still largely unknown, is being claimed before it is even fully seen. Since Piccard and Walsh, only a handful of humans have reached the Challenger Deep. Compare that to the nearly 9,000 climbers who have summited Everest. The deepest point on our planet remains almost pristinely unvisited. Maybe the question is not why we haven't gone back more often. Maybe it is whether the moment we treat the ocean floor like a mine, like a territory, like a prize, we lose the only thing that made going down there worth anything at all. If this video made you think differently about what lies beneath, share it with someone who still believes the 5% myth. And subscribe, because this story is far from over.